In 1939, the world watched in fear as dark clouds gathered over Europe. Nations that had just begun to recover from the devastation of World War I were once again staring into the face of another, even deadlier conflict. At the center of it all was one man, Adolf Hitler. A failed artist turned dictator, he had risen to power in Germany by feeding on anger and despair. The Treaty of Versailles had crippled Germany after World War I. Its economy collapsed, its people humiliated, and its army dismantled. Hitler promised to restore pride, rebuild the military, and make Germany great again. Millions believed him. By the late 1930s, the world was already changing. Hitler rearmed Germany in secret, violating the peace treaty. He remilitarized the Rhineland, annexed Austria, and demanded the Sudetenland, part of Czechoslovakia with a large German-speaking population. Britain and France, still haunted by the horrors of the Great War, tried to keep the peace. They gave in to his demands, hoping it would satisfy him. It didn't. On September 1, 1939, German forces invaded Poland. Using a devastating new tactic called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, German tanks, aircraft, and infantry struck with incredible speed and coordination. Within weeks, Poland was crushed. Britain and France declared war, but their armies were unprepared. Europe was at war again. Through the winter, little happened on the Western Front, a period known as the Phony War. But in April 1940, Hitler moved again. Denmark fell in a single day. Norway soon followed. Then came the real blow, the invasion of France. In May 1940, German forces struck through Belgium and the Netherlands, bypassing the heavily fortified Maginot Line. The attack was fast and ruthless. The French army, believed to be one of the strongest in the world, collapsed within 6 weeks. Paris fell. The world watched in shock as German soldiers marched down the Champs-Élysées. France was divided, the north occupied by German forces, the south ruled by a puppet government loyal to Hitler, known as the Vichy regime. Across the continent, Nazi banners flew where national flags once stood. Only one nation stood between Hitler and total domination of Western Europe, Great Britain. In the summer of 1940, Hitler ordered Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion of the British Isles. But before the German army could cross the English Channel, they needed control of the skies. The Luftwaffe began a massive bombing campaign, the Battle of Britain. Night after night, German bombers attacked cities and airfields. London burned under relentless raids known as the Blitz. Yet the Royal Air Force refused to surrender. Outnumbered, outgunned, and exhausted, British pilots fought back with extraordinary courage. In the words of Prime Minister Winston Churchill, never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. By October, the invasion was cancelled. Hitler's first defeat had come not from armies, but from the skies. Britain survived, and with it, the hope that Europe could one day be free again. But Hitler's ambitions were far from over. In 1941, he turned east. On June 22, he launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in human history. More than 3 million German soldiers stormed into the Soviet Union. At first, they advanced quickly, capturing vast territories. But as the harsh Russian winter set in, the German army stalled. The Eastern Front would become a brutal, grinding war that consumed millions of lives. That same year, on December 7, 1941, Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor. The United States declared war on Japan, and days later, Hitler declared war on the United States. The world's most powerful industrial nation was now part of the Allied fight. From 1942 onward, the tide slowly began to turn. The Allies, the United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union, formed a grand alliance. In North Africa, British and American forces fought the Germans under Field Marshal Rommel. At El Alamein, the Allies achieved a crucial victory. Soon after, American troops landed in North Africa under Operation Torch, pushing German forces out completely. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the Battle of Stalingrad raged, one of the bloodiest confrontations in history. Entire cities were reduced to rubble. Soviet soldiers fought street by street, house by house, refusing to retreat. By February 1943, the German Sixth Army surrendered. It was Hitler's greatest defeat yet. But despite these setbacks, Nazi Germany still controlled most of Europe. France, Belgium, Norway, Denmark, and the Netherlands were under occupation. Resistance groups worked in secret, sabotaging trains, passing information to the Allies, and waiting for liberation. The Allies knew that to truly defeat Hitler, they had to invade Western Europe. They needed a second front, a massive operation that would strike directly into the heart of Nazi-occupied territory. The planning began in 1943. The invasion would require unimaginable preparation, coordination between land, sea, and air forces from multiple nations. It would be the largest amphibious invasion in history, and its codename was Operation Overlord. Leading the operation was General Dwight D. Eisenhower, appointed Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force. Calm, disciplined, and respected by both British and American commanders, Eisenhower carried an enormous burden. The fate of Europe rested on his shoulders. But Hitler was preparing too. Knowing that an invasion would come, he ordered the construction of the Atlantic Wall, a massive line of fortifications stretching from Norway to the French-Spanish border. Concrete bunkers, machine gun nests, barbed wire, and millions of mines guarded the coastline. The Germans expected the Allies to land at Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point between Britain and France. So the Allies created an elaborate deception plan, Operation Bodyguard, designed to make Hitler believe that Calais was indeed the target. Fake radio messages, dummy tanks, inflatable aircraft, and even a phantom army under General George Patton convinced German intelligence that Normandy was safe. Meanwhile, across Britain, the real invasion force was gathering. Over 2 million troops from the United States, Britain, Canada, and other Allied nations trained relentlessly for the assault. Engineers built landing craft, artificial harbors, and pipelines to transport fuel under the sea. Airborne units practiced night drops. Every detail, from tides to weather, had to be perfect. By late 1943, the Allies had liberated North Africa and were fighting up through Italy. Mussolini's fascist regime collapsed, and Italy surrendered. Yet Hitler continued to resist, fighting fiercely across every front. Europe was still under the Nazi boot. Millions lived in fear. Jews were being deported to death camps in a campaign of systematic extermination, the Holocaust. Cities lay in ruins. Entire nations waited for salvation that seemed impossible. But that salvation was coming. In London, Eisenhower and his commanders finalized the plans for D-Day, the day that would mark the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. They knew the risks. If the invasion failed, the war could be lost. Still, the decision was made. Across southern England, soldiers waited in camps, their weapons ready, their minds uncertain. Sailors prepared the greatest naval armada ever assembled. Paratroopers studied maps by candlelight, knowing many would never return. The world held its breath. After 5 years of war, after the fall of nations and the suffering of millions, the moment of liberation was finally at hand. The road to D-Day had been long, bloody, and filled with sacrifice, but the greatest test was yet to come. The storm would break on the beaches of Normandy. And from that moment forward, the fate of Europe would change forever.